Shalom. First and foremost, as always, I would like to begin this lesson off by giving all praise, honor, and glory to our power, Yahweh, Bahashim Yahawashi, Bahashim Rachak Wadash, Barakateh Yahawashi, 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 the King. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, who have taught us all this truth. In the spirit and power of Yahweh Bahashim Yahawashi, I'm Shaquat from the GMS Dallas branch, back here with another lesson. Lord willing, is edifying to the hopeful elect. Yahweh Bahashim Yahawashi, Barakathum to you sincere, Akim, walk with you, and a sincere shalom to you brothers that are out here pushing this truth on the highways and the byways and through the YouTube lessons, man. Shalom to you all. Lord willing, this lesson be edifying and exhorting to the elect. All right, so back here with this second Esdras 11. All right, resuming from about 2 weeks ago, Salakia. Lord willing, we get through this part. You know, if not, as always, we just do another part. I don't want to side. You know, it doesn't hurt. You know, as long as the work is getting done, and you know, for edification's sake. All right, so we're gonna start again. All right, we are resuming from verse 26. All right, that's where we left off on in class before jumping down. But I want to get through the rest of this breakdown. So we're going to try to get through it. We ain't going to try to rush, but we can try to get through it. I'm on my lunch break, so I got about 40 minutes. So, you know. So here we go. This is our second Esdras, 11 and 26. And if you don't know the other part, just go to my first part. I have a playlist literally for it. It's second Esdras 11, so just go there. Now it says, and I beheld, and lo, there was one set up, but shortly it appeared no more. Now, who is this going into? That's going into Galba. All right. So you had the 12, just to give us a brief refresher before we keep going. You have those 12 Caesars that this chapter is going into, 3 of which it did not touch upon in detail, but ultimately it was 12 of the most prominent Caesars in Rome, because obviously there were more than 12 Caesars, as there were Caesars that reigned after the last Caesar, which was Domitian. There were more Caesars that reigned after, because Rome was still, you know, an empire. May not have been a fucking high in its strength, like it, you know, not in its prime, but it still remained in power for another 300 or so years after Domitian perished. Right. So, but these are the 12 most prominent. The 12 first and prominent. All right, the most prominent ones. All right. So you have Julius Caesar, right? And then you got Tiberius. I don't remember. Let me look. I don't remember all of them. I forgot. You got Julius Caesar, then you got Augustus. Yeah, there we go. Augustus. He reigned 41 years. How the fuck can I forget that? He had the longest reign of them all. You got Tiberius. And then you have you jump down. You have the 3 that weren't mentioned. All right. Which was Caligula, Claudius, and Nero. And we know Nero was the one who reigned right before Galba, Salakia. And you know, he ruled right before the year of the 4 emperors, right? So you got Nero, and you know, we say today we believe Donald Trump is Nero in the reincarnation, and there could be multiple niggas in the reincarnation. You know, he, like Apostle Tahar, I heard him mention last week, he could even be Antiochus Epiphany. And I wouldn't be so fucking surprised. I wouldn't be surprised. This nigga is evil, all right? And he hates Jake. Look at the what that shit was called, the Central Park 4, something like that, with them 4 so-called black boys. Got lied on and accused of raping Edomite woman and shit. But they ain't do shit. They ain't had nothing to do with it. And I think that shit's still on Netflix. I don't know if it's still on Netflix, but I remember watching it when it first came out, you know, some years back. But then you have Galba, Ortho, Vitellius, Vespasian, Titus, and Domitian. All right, there we go. So right now we're at the 6th emperor, all right, which is Ortho. I mean Salakia. I keep saying Ortho. Galba, all right. So Galba, so it says, and I beheld, and lo, there was one set up, but shortly it appeared no more. That's talking about Galba, because Galba had one of the shortest reigns out of any, you know, Caesar. All right, he only reigned for for 7 months. It wasn't even a whole year. He was the first one to reign during the year of the 12, during the year of the 4 emperors. He was the first one. All right, so that's going into Galba. He only reigned 7 months. Then it goes on, it says, and the second was sooner away than the first. Who was the second one in that year of the 4 emperors? Who came after Galba? Ortho. And Ortho reigned even shorter. He actually, I believe he reigned the shortest. Well, he reigned the shortest out of them 12. Now, I don't know if he reigned the shortest out of any emperor, but out of them 12, he reigned the shortest. He reigned for 3 months. Only 3 months. That's sleazy work. Ugly work. Ugly. He only reigned for 3 months, man. So, Galba reigned 7, Ortho reigned 3. All right? Now, it goes on and it says, and I beheld, and lo, the 2 that remained thought also in themselves to reign. Now, who are the 2 that remain? All right, that's going into the 2 that remain in what? After Galba and Ortho. All right, the 2 that remain in what? The year of the 4 emperors. Who were the last 2 rulers of the year of the 4 emperors? Vitellius, which came next, and then Vespasian, which if your spirit can receive it, this chapter goes into reincarnation earlier up in there, and it's going to touch it again later, here, coming up here shortly. Vespasian was Julius Caesar coming back in the reincarnation, because it was prophesied earlier in the chapter that would happen. All right, so that's going into Vitellius and Vespasian. All right, now when you go on, it says, and when they so thought, behold, there awaked one of the heads that were at rest. Who? That's going into Vespasian. What are the heads? When you go to the first verse, it talks about 3 heads. Those 3 heads are those of the first triumvirate, which basically means a joining of power. You know, I'm just giving you the most basic definition. When you look it up, it'll tell you even more in depth. And we went in more in depth into what the first triumvirate was in the first part. So just go watch that. All right, but basically it's a joining of powers, and it's a board of 3 men, ultimately. All right, so when you get into that, man, that first head, the most prominent head, was Julius Caesar, and then you also had the 2 others, which were Pompey and Crassus. You had Pompey and Crassus. All right, so that head. All right, one of the heads that were at rest, namely that was in the midst, namely it that was in the midst, all right, for that was greater than the 2 other heads. So it's talking about Julius Caesar, because earlier in the chapter it even goes into how Julius was the greater of the 2 heads, if your spirit can receive that. And then when you look into the history, Julius was the greater of the other 2 heads, man. He was greater than them. All right, and actually that was led to that, if your spirit can receive it, and if you do a little research, that is what essentially led to Julius Caesar's death. He was what they call that shit, assassinated. All right, because Pompey and Crassus and certain other fellows, but Pompey and Crassus got jealous because this was supposed to be an equal level, you know, of joining of powers. And then Julius started getting more pull. People really liked Julius, you know, and he was really good to his people. So they got jealous. You know, he was out there fighting with his men. He got real popular, you know, a bunch of fame. They got jealous. And, you know, as Esau does, them niggas slime each other out. Which is why Jake's starting to slime each other out all the time now, because they're like their father's the devil. Ye of your father's the devil. That was Yahushua telling Jake, nigga, you act like Esau. Fuck, nigga. That's what the Lord is telling them niggas. They are their father, the devil. That's why Jake do that shit now. But nonetheless, let's stay on track. They slimed him out for that, because he was the greatest. Do your research on it, you know. But anyway, so that head that was greater, all right, then the 2 other heads is talking about Julius Caesar. All right, and that's talking about him reincarnating as Vespasian, because it says early in the chapter that 3 heads are going to return at the last. This is the beginning. So Julius Caesar reincarnated as Vespasian, if your spirit can receive that. Now, you know, like Yahushua said, if you can receive it, nigga, if you can. You know, he said something like that in Matthew 11, if you can receive it. Or was it Matthew 10? One of those two chapters. I think it was Matthew 11. But he was, when he was telling them about how, maybe Matthew 11, when he was telling them about how he was telling some of the people how John the Baptist was Elijah in the reincarnation. And then he said, if you can receive it. So if you can receive this, that was Vespasian coming back in the reincarnation. So anyway, I mean, that was Julius Caesar coming back as Vespasian in the reincarnation. Now it says, and then I saw that the two other heads were joined with it. How? Because Pompey came back as as Vespasian's oldest son, which is essentially Julius Caesar, but Vespasian's oldest son, he came back as which was Titus. He came back as Titus, and then Crassus came back as Domitian. All right, which was the youngest son of Vespasian. So that's what it's talking about. Then they would join together once again. You know, not in power, but you know, Vespasian ended up, you know, dying. I forgot how he died, so I ain't gonna say that. But you know, knowing part, prophesying part, I haven't looked into that in a while. But with the Titus, you know, we'll get into that. We're gonna get into that because the chapter gonna speak on it. So let's keep going. Now it says, and behold, right? Oh, and also just to note this too, you know, I don't want to go past this without noting this. This was the beginning of the Flavian dynasty. All right. And what's funny is when you go into that word Flavian, it literally means blonde, blonde or yellow, blonde or yellow. What does it mean to be blonde or yellow, to have that kind of hair or even have that kind of skin? What does that mean? It means you lack pigmentation, meaning what? You're a leopard. All right, meaning what? You have leprosy. So that goes to show who it is, man. This devil, man, is talking about the so-called white man. That's why they had to get rid of the Apocrypha. They said, nigga, we got to get rid of these 14 books, my nigga. We can't keep this in here. The Bible Destruction Group, we got to get rid of this shit, nigga. You know what I'm saying? This shit it can't keep that in there, man. You know what I'm saying? They removed it in like the 1800s, you know, and that was, yeah, they had to. Because, nigga, if you had a spirit working with you, it's over with. Nigga, it was over with, and we ain't had the Apocrypha. You know, it was over. I mean, Salakia, it was over with if we didn't even have the Apocrypha. But, nigga, we got the Apocrypha. Oh, that really lining shit up. Because now you actually incorporating the Greek Empire, going into the Greek Empire also. And you also have the scriptures, certain books in the Apocrypha that expound upon the Medo-Persian Empire, all right, which was left off of in the book of Malachi. That's the last book of the Old Testament that it leaves off of, which was in the Medo-Persian Empire. So you have, it expounds upon it. Then you even have accounts in there that touches back on ancient Babylon, you know. So, hey, you even have certain accounts that touch back on ancient Egypt. Anyway, it says, where was I at? Oh, this is the start of the Flavian dynasty. So I explained what that represents. But the Flavian dynasty was basically the restoration of Rome. So you have Pax Romana, which I spoke about in the first part, which is basically, it represented the glory days of Rome, Rome's glory days. But then I said Rome started to fall, you know, around that Nero time period, you know, around the time of Nero, you know, and the two emperors before him, but mainly Nero. That nigga really drove Rome into a ditch. That's what you really, when you look into the history of that, you know, he drove them into a ditch financially, militarily, etc. You know, which is why they hated him, and the Praetorian Guard was about to put his ass to death, but he ended up just offing himself, so they didn't get the satisfaction of doing so. And if you look today, Nero back in the reincarnation as Nero 47, this nigga doing the same damn thing right now. So that's just amazing. You know, it's amazing. Driving this shit to the gutter. And Lord willing, he will be the one that ushers in the mark of the beast. You know, we hoping and praying. You know, we hope another president don't take office, unless this nigga happens to perish and another nigga steps up to take his spot. But that, you know what that would mean? That would mean Trump wasn't the cruel Lord. That would mean whoever that nigga is the cruel Lord. Nonetheless, whoever is going to be issuing in this mark of the beast is the cruel Lord. All right? And it's going to be a president. It's not talking about the elites. It's going to be a president carrying out the bidding of the elites. All right? It's going to be one of those rulers. All right? But we believe it's Trump. You know, in the scriptures, hey, this is the spirit, bro. If it is Trump, that's the spirit, bro. You know, because the scriptures say, I forget where it says, somewhere in the New Testament where it says, at the last trump, you know, then these evil shock, man, at the last trump, my nigga. You know what I'm saying? That, you know, when you connect the dots on that, that's pretty cool. But anyway, this was basically, the Flavian dynasty was basically the restoration, you know, basically restoring stability to Rome. After that year, the 4 emperors, because that's when Rome was going down, man. You had 4 different emperors rule within the span of 1 year. Crazy work, all right? Diabolical. So, you know, and it didn't end up being literally within 12 months, which would make up a year. But from that time frame, it was like, I forgot what year exactly, but for example, 68 AD to, you know, sometime September 68 AD to November of 69 AD. I'm just giving you an example. You can look it up and actually see, but that's what it meant. You know, it wasn't inside of 12 months, but it was still, you know, in the span of a year. You know, it's like 2025, 2026. You know what I'm saying? But nonetheless, you can see Rome was thrown all out of whack because of that. So the Flavian dynasty was sparked by Vespasian, all right, to basically try to restore stability to Rome, right? And it said it was very prominent, because I do have some notes on this, so I don't, you know, spew some nonsense. It was very prominent due to kingship being passed down a generation, all right? So that was a side note I put. You know, it was very prominent because Rome, when you go to Daniel 7:7, it says it was diverse from all the other beasts. Why? Well, when you go to 1 Maccabees, the 8th chapter, it literally expounds upon why. Because they didn't have kings set up themselves and put crowns on their head and wear purple robes. And they're just the emperor of all, you know? So that was really different. It was a different type of thing. And really, that really started back at Augustus, if we're being honest. Because, you know, Caesar wasn't really an emperor, but when he got exalted, he was really like an emperor. So that, you know, he was technically the first. But it really sparked with Augustus, you know, and that was different. That was because really all the decisions were basically made in the Senate house, right? In the Senate house, which it goes into that earlier in this chapter. We went over there in the first part, and we went to that 1 Maccabees 8. That's what made it diverse. That's one of the ways, because it was diverse for many reasons, but that was the first and the main way that made it diverse from all these other beasts, because they didn't do all that nepotism shit. You know what I'm saying? So it was very prominent due to kingship being passed down a generation, because it went from Vespasian to Titus to Domitian. All right. And then it says, in 1 Maccabees 8, Rome didn't operate with, I just went into that, blah, blah, blah. Now it says, the Flavian dynasty was known for massive construction projects and major military campaigns. Known for that because they were trying to restore Rome. All right. And it was known as ruthless. It was a very ruthless time in Rome. You know, if your spirit can receive it, during that Flavian dynasty, that was around the time where 70 AD took place. Do your research on it. I'm not going to look it up right now for time's sake, but just do your research on it. That was around the time 70 AD took place during the Flavian dynasty. It was during the rule of Vespasian through Domitian. All right, now, which exact one made the calls on that shit? I can't tell you that. Just do a quick Google search on your own and you'll find it. You know, not that it's important, but because all they asses got to pay. But nonetheless, the Flavian dynasty was in, you know, that was during the time when 70 AD took place. And it wasn't literally on 70 AD, the year 70 AD where it took place. It really happened from about 66 AD to about 74 AD. It was about an 8 to 10 year period of time where they sieged the temple. All right. where they sacked Jerusalem. You know what I'm saying? And to see some, you gotta break it down. You gotta really break it down. Withhold food from getting into there, resources from getting in and out. Well, you could get in there, but can't shit get out. That's why it was told. Yeah, basically it was told by Yahushua. If you already out that bitch, don't go back, my nigga. Because if you go back, your ass gonna be stuck. All right, your ass gonna be stuck. So flee. And while the women was mourning for Yahushua said, shit, don't weep for me, but weep for yourself, goddamn. Because he knew 70 AD was going to happen, which happened about 30 to 40 years after his passing. All right? So, after his passing and ascension, all right, because he passed, rose back up, and ascended to heaven. All right? It didn't happen just that fast, but, it was in that order. You know what I'm saying? Because he did stay for a little bit to deal with his disciples just to show them, like, yeah, nigga, I'm the son of God. I told y'all niggas. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, man, so, yeah, that was around that time. They really persecuted us at that time. Real bad. Real bad. All right? So, anyway, let's keep going. And we have verse 31. Yeah. We in verse 31. And behold, the head was turned with them that were with it, and did eat up the 2 feathers under the wing that would have reigned. All right. So ultimately, that's just going into Vespasian coming up. You know what I'm saying? And he came into power. And then he established the Flavian dynasty. That's really all that's going into. And it also shows the backstabbing. It shows them niggas be backstabbing each other. Read it again. It says, and behold, the head was turned with them that were with it, and did eat up the 2 feathers under the wing that would have reigned. So whoever was ruling before his ass, he destroyed him. A lot of backstabbing. All right? A lot of backstabbing. That's how these devils get down. So if a nigga not good to his own, how would he be good to you? And that's a precept I just quoted, roughly paraphrasing. If brother note, put it in the comments for edification's sake. Now it says at verse 32, but this head put the whole earth in fear. Now he put the whole earth in fear. Like I was saying, this is around the time they was putting hell on us, man. It was around 70 AD. All right. And it says in Beru. So Julius, so it was Vespasian bitch ass. Julius Caesar have you, perhaps, right, doing this shit. So they put fear in the whole earth, right? Because like I said, that Flavian dynasty, it was ruthless, man. But to an extent, it was efficient, right? This is when they was putting hell on us. Now it says, and bear rule in it over all those that dwelt upon the earth with much oppression, because they was oppressing everybody, nigga. Like I say all the time, this was Greek Hellenization on steroids, hence Greco-Roman Empire, hence is the same damn people, nigga. Same damn people. But anyway, as I was saying, they oppressed everybody. All nations got oppressed, but Jake got oppressed the worst. The worst, that much oppression. Everybody got oppressed, but not everybody got much oppression. Jake got much oppression. 70 AD, I'm going to keep saying that. And it had the governance of the world more than all the wings that have been. Crazy work, right? So just to get a few precepts to back this, this 70 AD. All right, let me go here. Got the other phone, so just bear with me. Yeah, here we go. This is the account that I just quoted earlier. Luke 23 and 27. And there followed him a great company of people and of women, which also bewailed and lamented him. This is going into Yahushua being crucified. That was, And it says, but Yahushua turning unto them said, Salakia. Salakia, bear with me a moment. Yeah, so where were we at? Verse 28. But Yahushua turning unto them said, daughters of Jerusalem, weep not for me, but weep for yourselves and for your children, especially for your children. That's why the Lord said, woe to those who give suck in those days. All right. That's why he said that back in Matthew, the 24th chapter. All right. That's why he said that, because a lot of women had to eat their children, you know. In that day, it was cannibalism going on. If your spirit can receive that, it got real bad. Because remember, a siege means you literally halt all resources from going into a certain area. And that area that's not able to receive the resources, they're the area being sieged. It's very cruel. But it says, weep not for me, but weep for yourselves and for your children. For behold, the days are coming, in the which they shall say, blessed are the barren. So if blessed are you if you don't have no children, because it's going to be easier to move around in that day, and then your children ain't got to possibly perish or be ate. Blessed are the barren and the wombs that never bear, and the paps which never gave suck. And it says, then shall they begin to say to the mountains, fall on us, and to the hills, cover us from what? Them evils, man, because it was bad. That shit was bad. And it says, if they do these things in a green tree, what shall be done in the dry? And there were also two other malefactors led with him to be put to death. So there you go. And the small hats ain't never went through that. They ain't never went through 70 AD. They don't got no history that shows they went through 70 AD. Bitch ass niggas. And you could turn around and say, well, where's yours? Well, bitch, nigga, we don't have no resources right now. Fuck, nigga, besides this Bible, besides Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushai. But as for carnal resources, bitch, nigga, we don't got it. And really, we do. Hey, brothers be finding straight going into their history, proving shit. You know what I'm saying? But nonetheless, we're literally in a deadened state, meaning we don't have, access to much of anything carnally. Esau got all the damn records. You know this nigga got the records proving we Israelites. You know this nigga got the records proving he's an Edomite. Like, come on now. They know what it is. To tell a lie, you got to know the truth. Now it says, that's just some going into that 70 AD. You know, you got Revelation 12 and 13. And when the dragon, Roman Empire, saw that he was cast unto the earth, it saw he was falling. Like I said, this was a period of time to try to restore Rome because they were falling, and they were still falling in their restoration. He persecuted the woman, talking about Israel. Really, in particular, is talking about Jerusalem. All right, those who were in Jerusalem, and at that time, that was really just the southern kingdom. But which brought forth the man-child, which is Yahushai. And it says, unto the woman were given two wings of a great eagle, all right, that she might fly into the wilderness. Now that's talking about Jake fleeing the Jerusalem in 70 AD. They were fleeing, and that's how you got a lot of Jakes all throughout Africa. They fled west. That's how you got a bunch of Jakes throughout Africa now. All right, and most of them got all the way to the coast, which is where you got them Nigerians or West Africans, right? And it says, that she might fly into the wilderness, into her place where she is nourished for a time and times and half a time from the face of the serpent. So they escaped for a period of time. And they were, they were able to stop and start, doing the will of the Lord to an extent, because they did it very poorly, which is why we got fucked up again and got taken in, transatlantic slave trade, put in a bigger captivity, but they got some rest to an extent. You do look into the history of that. All right. So they nourished for a time. And also that nourishment goes to America as well. Because here they're nourished for a little bit too. They've been getting nourished. Jake getting some benefits from the government, VA benefits, all that, yada, yada, yada. Jake nourished here for a little bit of time too. But that's why the Lord, Isaiah 3:1, is taking away that stay and that staff. He about to put a real chokehold on everybody. Right now, he doing that. All right. So let's see. All right, yeah, let's move on. And I was going to get that Matthew. But we can keep going. But just so you know, it's Matthew 24. You can start at 15, go about through. You can even go through verse 20. You probably could go a few more verses down to read the other account of 70 AD where the Lord said, woe to those who get stuck in those days. All right. So it says right here, where was I at? It's at verse 32, so that's going into Vespasian. So now we're at verse 33. And after this I beheld, and lo, the head that was in the midst suddenly appeared no more, like as the wings. So eventually, Vespasian died. None of them niggas can live forever. They're Edomites. Not gonna live forever. So eventually, Vespasian died also. All right. So, keep going. But there remain the two heads, talking about Pompey and Crassus, which was Titus and Domitian. Titus the older, Domitian the younger brother. Now it says, which also in like sort ruled upon the earth, and over those that dwelt therein. So they ruled in that same spirit, persecuting Jake. All right? They kept the Flavian dynasty going. Now it says, but, Slakia, and I beheld, and lo, the head upon the right side devoured it that was upon the left. Now, what does that mean? That means Domitian, so Titus had to rule, right? Then Domitian basically backstabbed Titus. He backstabbed that nigga, his older brother. And that's what it's talking about. He came in the rule. So backstabbing that niggas, right? And like I said, I actually got it in my notes here, but you can look it up. This is what I got from my little research. But it says, many believe there was foul play by Domitian in the death of Titus. But some believe Titus died of a natural fever. Now, I doubt that. I'm pretty sure that was foul play. I don't believe that shit. Titus stated, turn this here up. Titus stated on his deathbed, and I quote, I have made but one mistake. That's what Titus said on his deathbed as he was going out. Now, what was that mistake? Well, I was about to say, it's speculated that he came to the realization of his younger brother's betrayal. So it's been speculated that I made but one mistake. He had a solid rule. He said, but I made but one mistake. And it was speculated that he's talking about his younger brother. Why? Because his younger brother betrayed him. His brother betrayed him, on lesser levels multiple times before that. And Titus never, he never took action. He never did anything to him. All right. But it was, Mission was plotting against that nigga multiple occasions. Well, it's speculated that that's what that's going into, what he meant by that. All right. And all you got to do is Wikipedia the death of Titus, and it'll tell you what I just told you. Right. So let's go to verse 36. Then I heard a voice which said unto me, look before thee and consider the thing that thou seest. All right. Look before thee and consider the thing that thou seest. All right. And then you jump down to verse 37. Ooh, it's getting into the king. You know what I'm saying? I've been waiting for this verse. Getting to the king. Yahweh Shai, baby. So here we go. And I beheld, and lo, as it were a roaring lion, chased out of the wood. And I saw that he sent out a man's voice unto the eagle. Like we said, the eagle is the Roman Empire. The eagle is the 12 Caesars. The eagle is the Roman Empire. 12 for the wings is the 12 Caesars. But to the Roman Empire, and said, pause. This is how we know this is talking about Yahweh Shai. Yahweh Shai is the lion. He's the roaring lion. Proof? You need proof? Let's get two accounts. Let's get this, Revelation 5. All right. And, should be verse 5, right? Yep. Revelation 5:5. And one of the elders saith unto me, weep not. Behold, the Lion of the tribe of Judah. Who? The Lion of the tribe of Judah. Who is that? What was about to say it. The root of David hath prevailed to open the book and to loose the 7 seals thereof. Who is the Lion of the tribe of Judah? Yahweh Shai. He's the head of the tribe of Judah. It's him. He's the lion. This is talking about Yahweh Shai. He's the one that loosed the books. All right. To further prove that, it goes into verse 6. And I beheld, and lo, in the midst of the throne and the 4 beasts, and in the midst of the elders stood a lamb. Who is that? Yahweh Shai, because it says, as it had been slain. Who was slain? Yahweh Shai was slain. He was the sacrifice. Who was the sacrificial lamb of our nation? Yahweh Shai. So it's going into Yahweh Shai. This proof, having 7 horns and 7 eyes, which are the 7 spirits of God sent forth into all the earth. Further proof of that, Isaiah 11. The 7 spirits. He that hath the 7 spirits. Isaiah 11:1. And there shall come forth a rod out of the stem of Jesse, and a branch shall grow out of his roots. Jesse is the father of David. So it's talking about David's lineage. So who is that sprang out of David's lineage? Yahweh Shai. Read Revelation 1 and 3. Revelation. Read Romans 1 and 3. Salakia. Romans 1 and 3. And various other precepts. Matthew 1 going literally into the genealogy, everything. Because Yahweh Shai's pops, who was Joseph, he came out of the line of David. He was a direct descendant of David, making Yahweh Shai one. Now it says, and the Spirit of the Lord shall rest upon him. And that's one spirit. That's 1. The spirit of wisdom and understanding. That's 3. The spirit of counsel and might. That's 5. The spirit of knowledge and the fear of the Lord. That's 7 spirits. So showing you this is talking about Yahweh Shai. And then you can read further down if you would like. But shows you Yahweh Shai is in the Old Testament. Now, another precept to show you this is Yahweh Shai. Let's go over here to 2nd Esdras 12. All right, let's go to verse 30. Here we go. 2nd Esdras 12 and 31. And the lion whom thou sawest rising up out of the wood, and roaring, and speaking to the eagle, and rebuking her. Yahweh Shai was rebuking that bitch. All right, through who? The mouth of the prophets. For her unrighteousness, because them deeds reached up unto heaven. What did I put in the notes here? But what I said is correct. All right, yeah, there you go. That's beautiful. All right, and it says, and rebuke her for her unrighteousness with all the words which thou hast heard. This is the anointed. Who is the anointed? Yahweh Shai, Hamashiach. This is the anointed which the highest hath kept for him. All right, the only begotten Son of the Lord. Read John, the 1st chapter. And for their wickedness, for John 1 and 14 to be exact, and for their wickedness unto the end, he shall reprove them and shall upbraid them with their cruelty. For he shall set them before him alive in judgment, and shall rebuke them and correct them. Through what? The mouth of the prophets first, then through literally coming down and laying the smack down on these niggas. All right, so showing you this is literally talking about Yahweh Shai. 2nd Esdras 12 is literally just breaking down 2nd Esdras 11. That's literally it. It's just breaking it down. All right, so where we're stopping at? We're stopping at we're going to stop here at verse 37. When we come back, we're going to reread it. All right, we're going to reread verse 37 and then go on down. All right, but now you know who it's talking about. So, Lord willing, this was edifying to the elect. All right, we're going to come with a part 3. I don't want to route to Zah. Got to get back inside to get cranked, unfortunately, by Esau. But, Lord willing, you know, this lesson was edifying to the elect. All right, I would like to close it. Hey, Shalom, bro. Shalom, Shemaiah. Yahweh Shemaiah Shai Barakatah. Shalom, brother. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're doing well, bro. Habatah. Yahweh Mahar. But yeah, man. I'm going to come back with a part 3 for this 2nd Esdras 11, Lord willing. And the 2nd Esdras 12 breakdown, when I get into that eventually, it should be an easier breakdown because, you know, it's literally just breaking down the 11th chapter. So when I say easier, it should be a shorter breakdown. It shouldn't be as long. But, like I said, I'm going to close giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Rachak, Wadash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone who have taught us all this truth in the spirit and power of Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai. And until next time, Abba Babal, Kwame Asherallah, Gadol Abadium, Lababal, Hagadol, Yahweh Mahar, Wa Habathum. And until next time, I would like to say unto you all, Shalom. We almost there. One step closer to the kingdom, bro. One step closer. Shalom, Shemaiah. I miss y'all brothers in the O. I miss y'all brothers. Lord willing, I get to see y'all soon on this side. Lord willing. Shalom, though.